Yo, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Do me a favor. So I have a broken headphone this time, but I believe the mic works. So type 5, so I can make sure that everybody hears me, and also let me know if you can see me. Type 5 so you can see me and hear me. So I'm gonna make this brief, and I'm gonna cover some basic points, okay? But I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Type 5. What's going on, everybody? This is Edward Williams, founder and creator of Health by Any Means Necessary. Hope everybody's doing great on this Monday. Um, so I want to talk to you all about medical finesse. All right, everybody knows what finesse means. You heard the song "Trippin' on Finesse," but pretty much, we're talking about game, getting hustled, and in the medical arena, there's a lot of that. There's more than enough to go around. Specifically, I want to talk about something dealing with type 2 diabetics. You know, for the most part, when it comes to diabetes, everybody's kind of told this, given this idea and this myth that they are having an issue producing insulin, right? Right or wrong. So much so to the point where they'll be given medications to help them produce more insulin, right? And that's particularly the case when we see medications such as sulfonylureas. These are medications like glimepiride, these are glipiride, gliburide. And then some people will have to go to the point, or some people are put on insulin, which is insulin. And so you have these medications, you have this theory, you have this whole idea, this whole system set up on you're having problems creating insulin. And so in order to help you, we're going to give you things to make your cells more sensitive to insulin, or we're going to give you things to make your pancreas produce more insulin, or we're just going to straight up inject you with insulin, right? Once again, that's working off of this idea that you're having problems with insulin, and in some cases that you're no longer creating insulin. That is the story. Would everyone agree? It's not really something to agree on, just a fact, but let's just walk through this. Would everyone agree that insulin is a hormone? It is a hormone, right? Now, something else we have in medicine is called HRT. HRT stands for hormone replacement therapy. Type 5, real quick, if you're familiar with hormone replacement therapy. So this is a type of therapy that men and women will have. So, there's multiple types of hormones that will be replaced. So in the case of a female, it could be estrogen. Estrogen will be administered to the female to increase her levels. In the case of a man, it could be testosterone. Testosterone will be given to a male to increase his testosterone. But also there's other conditions such as thyroid condition, right? So there'll be people who have low functioning thyroid, they'll be given medications to help increase their thyroid levels. And so when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, HRT, you're never, ever, ever hear of a situation when someone is getting hormone replacement therapy and then you ask them what their level of that hormone that is being replaced. There'll never be a point where you ask that question and they tell you, I don't know. There'll never be a point where you ask that question, what's your testosterone? And they tell you, my doctor never checked my testosterone. Now, let's go back over here with insulin. Insulin is a hormone. You're being given insulin to replace the insulin that you're having problems making or you're no longer making. Whether you want to classify it as hormone replacement therapy, that is hormone replacement therapy, because you're replacing the amount of insulin that your pancreas is supposedly having problems creating. So that's HRT as far as I'm concerned. Now, how many type 2 diabetic patients know their insulin level? How many type 2 diabetic patients have ever had their insulin level checked? And this brings me to my point. Why have you not had your insulin levels checked as a type 2 diabetic? You're taking medications called sulfonylureas to force your pancreas to produce more insulin. How do we know it's not secreting enough insulin? How do we know that? Did you verify that by checking the insulin. When you are administering insulin to yourself because the doctor told you to, and they also tell you that's because you're low on insulin, how do you know that? You see, this is supposed to be based on science. You're not supposed to be guessing. You're not supposed to be making assumptions. You're supposed to be taking actual facts, numbers, things specific to you, and you're supposed to use that to now come up with a treatment plan to come to a conclusion to help improve your health. And so I ask you once again, if you're a type 2 diabetic, how many of you have ever had your insulin levels checked? How many of you know your insulin levels? Now, the reason why this is not common practice, the reason why you're not going to see people just getting their insulin levels checked is because that's when you're going to see the game. Y'all seen The Wizard of Oz, right? Where where at the end of the movie, they finally pull back the curtain on the Oz, and they pull back the curtain, and it's like this little guy standing on a box, speaking through a blowhorn. He's not big, he's not bad, he's not tough. Same thing with that bully on the schoolyard, right? You see somebody get into altercation with him, and then somebody finally punches him in the jaw. You find out he got a weak jaw, and you're like, yo, all you gotta do is hit the bull in the jaw. He'll fall right out. And this goes on and on and on and on. And so with this situation, with the insulin levels not being checked, what I'm telling you is that if you pull back the curtain, what you're going to find out is that their idea or their methodology of having you take medications that increase insulin or having you take insulin is based on you not having enough insulin. But if you check the insulin, most type 2 diabetic patients are going to see not only do they have enough insulin, but they have a high amount of insulin. They have too much insulin. And this is insulin resistance. Your cells have downregulated its insulin receptors because you are overfilled to capacity as pertains to glucose. Insulin is trying to put glucose in the cells. Once the cells are at max capacity, the cells make the intelligent decision to downregulate the insulin receptors. Now the insulin has to now float around the body to try to find other places to put the glucose. And if it's not able to find cells that actually need the glucose, it's going to now take that glucose back to the liver, where it's going to convert it to glycogen. This is a stored form of glucose. And because the glucose is so high and the insulin is so high, a lot of that glycogen is going to be converted into fat, and it's going to be stuffed in your liver. It's going to be stuffed in your pancreas. It's going to be stuffed, of course, in the fat cells, but it's also going to be stuffed in other organs such as your heart. And this is a problem. And so what I'm telling you is that this whole idea that you don't have enough insulin or your body needs assistance making insulin, you're going to see that it's 180 degrees difference as far as the truth goes. You're making more than enough insulin. As a matter of fact, your diet is causing you to make a surplus of insulin. This excess amount of insulin is not only making you sicker, but it's accelerating the disease process. It's accelerating the stiffening of the arteries. It's accelerating the plaque in the arteries. It's accelerating the PCOS, the high blood pressure. It's accelerating everything, and it's because of the surplus of insulin that's being caused by the diet, the lifestyle in most cases. So I want you all to think about that. All right. There's nowhere else in medicine where you could be replacing a hormone and not check for it. Not only do you check for it in the beginning to get a base level, but you also check to see how your therapy has worked. If you've been treating with testosterone for 3 months, let's get your blood work to see if the therapy is effective. And with type 2 diabetes, most diabetic patients will tell you straight up, never have my insulin checked. Never. If I'm wrong, if you were one of the rare ones who have had your insulin levels checked, please say something in the comments. Let me know. But like I said, I've been doing this for over 6 years now. I know I look young, but I've been doing this for over 6 years now. And I'm gonna tell you what, I've never seen a patient, unless they're my patient, I've never seen a patient who was placed on one of these sulfonylureas or insulin or diagnosis diabetic in general, knowing or ever having their insulin levels checked. And I think that's a huge problem, okay? I hope that makes sense. If you guys are commenting, I'm not able to see the comments right now. I'm not sure if there's something going on, but that's what I want to say. And so also in addition with that, let me pull it out real quick. So everything I'm talking about, you know, these are things, let me turn the camera around real quick. These are things that I cover in the book, Done with Diabetes. We have a whole section on it. I won't try to go through it right now because, you know, it's gonna look crazy. But in my book, I go over that. You know, I go over nefarious nomenclature, because really, when it comes down to it, for the well-meaning practitioner, as far as why they continue to do these things without really thinking about it or thinking outside the box, it's because of nefarious nomenclature, which is what I consider type 1 and type 2 diabetes to be. You know, they should not have the same name. They should not be similar, because the way a lot of people are getting treated with type 2 diabetes, for type 2 diabetes, when they're taking those medications to make the insulin, to make the pancreas secrete more insulin, is almost as if you were type 1. Because in type 1 diabetes, we know that it's an autoimmune condition. We understand that the isolates of Langerhans, the beta cells, have been destroyed by the body. And so we understand where that issue is coming from with that. And so we actually, in type 1 diabetes, you actually have a situation where they are not producing enough insulin. However, with type 2, that is not the case. That is not the case. And they can't even tell you if that's the case or not, because most type 2 diabetics do not get their insulin levels checked. All right. So I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. You know, if not, leave your questions below. I got to get back in here and finish seeing these patients, but I wanted to make sure I talked about that real quick. And I'm going to come back, and not on Facebook Live, but I'm actually going to do a presentation on this, because I want people to really make sure they understand what this whole thing is about. All right. So I appreciate you all for being here. Can thyroid affect your sugar? Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely can. But once again, I still want you to start thinking about it from the bottom. Go look at insulin resistance and thyroid, whether most likely hypothyroidism and insulin resistance, and see the connection there. A lot of this stuff is coming from insulin resistance, which is coming from our lifestyle, the diets, the lack of movement, the deficiencies in the minerals and vitamins. A lot of our problems can be solved by doing better as far as our lifestyle goes. Eating whole foods, moving, fasting, getting sunlight, even laughing and having fun and enjoying our family. All these things play a major role. All right. So I appreciate y'all. Make sure you check out the book. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Love y'all. Peace.